Mate, so I just sent you an email, and the response that I got was an automated response saying, thanks for getting in touch. I only check my emails twice a day so I can stay fully focused on my clients and team. And I just thought that was the perfect place to start in terms of how you manage your calendar, because you're so busy, have so many things going on. Talk to me about how you structure your days and your weeks.
Brilliant. By the way, I didn't even know that was implemented yet. We've been working on that for a little while, so I've got to say thanks to our operational manager for being better than what I thought they are. But that's how good we are, right? Yeah, look, I was thinking about it this morning. I book my phone calls throughout the day. Very rarely, I answer my phone, very often. But as you are in meetings, I normally would book a time to call someone and let them know that I'm calling at that time, so I know that I can, allocate those 15 minutes for that thing. And my calendar very much day to day. It's it's pre-filled week by week. And what I mean by that, I've got my big rocks in the calendar, right? The time with the family, my team meetings, my whatever things that I got recurring, right? And those are always there. So whether it's next week or whether it's in 10 weeks, they're always there, right? And I work around that. And then very much from there, it's a matter of how many days in advance I'm fully booked, because I do leave space for negotiation, I do leave space for callbacks. But if you call me and want to have an appointment today or tomorrow, there is a chance that I can be free, but in most cases I'll probably am fully booked for the next 48 hours, because I always like to keep things in there so that I have time to service my clients.
Do you have a philosophy in terms of, you're trying to leave 15 minutes or 30 minutes after certain meetings so that way you can catch up on the work? Because like you said, real estate is such a ever-evolving landscape where 1 minute things can be perfect and then you blink and 5 fires have started and you kind of need to start to go into that mode. How do you, I guess, think about, leaving that time for yourself?
Absolutely, very good question. And until a few years ago, I was very much, if it took 11 minutes from one property to the other one, I would book 15 minutes in between the two appointments to literally just jump in the car and go. Now the buffer is, if it takes 15 minutes, I still have 30 minutes gap in between of them, so that I can actually stop, breathe, check my emails as soon as I jump in the car, check my emails again before I get in the next appointment. If I'm lucky, do 30 seconds of breathing, and then bang, I can go to the next thing and just be ready for it.
The real difference that I've seen in hosting this podcast, we're nearly up to episode 50, and there seems a real correlation between the agents that not just have a specific calendar, but being able to stick to it, in comparison to the agents that may not be reaching their goals, and depending on how they feel that day, they can really just get taken by that rather than sticking to the structure. Do you notice a similar comparison in your own experience to that's what makes agents successful, what's in the calendar, but then also sticking to it?
One of my first mentors, and still mentors to this day, Tom Panos, as I say, that what gets scheduled gets done. And I actually schedule my private life as well in my calendar. It's because if I don't have a private life. If I don't, I'll never have dinner with the wife. If I don't, I've never had time to actually relax with my daughters and spend a bit of time with the family. So yeah, absolutely, everything is scheduled. And if it's not scheduled, it just literally is not getting done, right?
And you're arguably the most successful real estate agent ever in New Zealand. When you think about reaching...
I don't know, but thanks, Mitch. I'll take that. I'll take that compliment. But I appreciate you.
Well, I can throw the word in arguably there. So if anyone wants to pipe up, they can throw whoever they want to nominate in. But I want to ask what that was like, working towards being number one and then being able to stay at number one, because I know for so many agents they have this goal and this desire and this, magnetic pull for who they want to be in the future. You've gone and achieved that. So I'd really love to discuss what it was actually like working your way to that, and then once you were there, how that felt.
The fuel behind that was a desire of not failing, of not being a failure. Like many people, they don't want to fail at what they're doing, right? And for me, that was my number one fire. Now, of course as well, sorry, some commotion. Of course, behind that, then there was as well an element of, wanting to be number one and actually enjoying the success and the achievements and everything that came with it, from a point of view of the clients' satisfactions, as well as, you know, being recognized in the industry and all of that, right? You know, those few years that I was riding that wave, that were incredible years, and from TV shows, appearances, this and that. It was brilliant. I loved it. It was probably some of my most founded memories of my life. But the feel that got me there was very much a desire of not failing, not wanting to be a failure. And once you say that you want to become number one and you have all of those goals, you've got no other options but really make it through it. Otherwise, you're a failure, right? So that was my fire for many years, until the fire evaporated. And there was 5 years that I had great memories, but I would not want to repeat a single one of those 5 years, because the intensity and all of that was another story, right? That's the other side of that coin that a lot of people don't talk about.
Yeah, and I really feel like I call it the success arc, in terms of you have a goal, you work so hard to achieve it, but then based on how you actually went on to achieve that goal doesn't necessarily mean you want to continue living your life through that same lens. What do you think has changed in your perspective on how you view the next 5 years in comparison to the last 5?
It's been very much surrounding, you know, the intensity and the stress levels, and, you know, the disconnection that sometimes you can, you know, encounter when you are that busy working 80, 90 hours a week, and you got kids and a wife and a life, but really work is your life. And sometimes you put the other things, I don't want to say on the side, but you don't enjoy those moments as much as you possibly should. I could, because some of my regrets have been really much around missing the time with my kids, because I was just, you know, working and just so. That's all I could think about, right? That was my life. So it's realizing that gave me an opportunity to actually review things and actually understand actually what's more important than not, and come up with system and processes and the team around me that allows me to now live the life that I have, that I'm living, which I wouldn't go back to those 5 years, although they were some of my best memories, and they will always be very close to my heart. But there and now, they're two different times completely. But you don't get to know until you have actually experienced all of that and the cycle of all of that. You know, those 5 years of high intensity. Right? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say I listened to a podcast maybe about 12 months ago, and they were saying for these people that go and achieve, you know, something that only the 0.01% will ever do, for those people, you actually have to go and achieve it to know that that's not how you would like to continue and sustain for the next 20 or 30 years. I think the thing that I commend to you is you're someone that's gone and done it and decided to do work differently, rather than, you know, an agent says, I want to be number one, and then they do like a couple of months of prospecting and it's hard, and they go, oh, actually, I don't want to be number one, because, you know, they just choose to not do the work and say that they don't want the thing, instead of actually going through the process to go and reach it first. Is there a way that you think about spending time with your family a little bit differently now? Because even for myself, I know I'm probably nowhere near as busy as you and managing so many different things, but I still carry that mental load of when I'm with my family, you know, the brain's still ticking and, you know, the things to do in the background. When you spend your time with your family now, is there something that you do to kind of reset and really get into that present moment?
Yeah, and now it's been able to letting go and fully delegate and having trust in the people around you. Not that I didn't have trust 5 years ago, but it's now I feel that I went to Italy last year, just to give a quick understanding of where I am now mentally, in terms of when I'm working, I'm working. When I'm not working, I'm not working. And when I was in Italy, there was a 12-hour difference. So I was working, you know, I was on my phone for a little bit in the morning and a little bit of at night time. And of course, I was sleeping every night. And by the time I woke up in the morning, the world was still there. My team was still doing their job. Properties were still selling. And it's actually realizing that. And that actually was very powerful, because I realized that I'm not needed. Like now, you know, I remember going on holiday on Bali, and I'm talking about holiday because that's when you're away, but it's the same when you're at home. And because the time zone is almost so similar, you actually end up working all day, more or less, because you're going to keep. But I realized when I was in Italy that actually I didn't have to be there, and the team is more than capable. And I always knew that, but it's hard to let go. So now, look, I take half a day off Thursday afternoon. That's basically what I'm taking off, and it probably should be more than that. But within the week, there is a few hours there, and the weekend is not as full on as during the week. But in my Thursday afternoon, which was yesterday. We're talking now on a Friday. Well, I love my Thursday afternoon because I know from when I pick up the kids at school until we go to bed, I'll check my phone a couple of times, of course, but I can let go and I can just enjoy myself.
And Diego, we have people that are brand new to the industry, up to veterans writing $1 million plus in GCI that listen to this podcast. I'd really like to break down a couple of key things for everyone. I know we could probably talk for 8 hours and still not get enough information to be able to share to everyone. But I'd love to start with people that are just beginning in their career and maybe in the first couple of years. What are 2 or 3 things that you think as a skill set builds a foundation for them to go and build a successful career for the next 10 years in real estate?
Don't worry about knowing the market and having all of the knowledge. Worry about understanding what the client or customer wants, and then you'll be able to help people regardless of your skills. With AI, with all of the informations online, you can become an expert in the suburb in half an hour. But people miss that, and they stress about not being an experienced agent, and then what happens is that they have a moral line in their brain that they don't have the skills yet to help people. And I completely disagree. You have the skills to help people from day one, but you need to understand what they need first, and people miss that.
And that's such a different view, because I think from a lot of conversations that I've had, people say the only thing that you need to do when you first start is product knowledge. So when it comes to understanding your clients' wants, can you give me some practical examples? Is that something that you're trying to find out during the appraisal, or is this just through your relationship that you're getting to know them?
Ultimately, it boils down to 2 questions, and how you ask those questions or when you ask those questions is completely up to you. But the question could be something on the lines of, have you got a number and a timeline that you're working towards, and why? Once you know that, then you can help them with everything else, strategy, timelines, whatever else. But if you don't understand that, and then is the client taking you on a journey versus you taking the client on a journey.
I love it. And then if we move to agents that have maybe been around for a couple of years, they're doing 1 to 2 sales a month and they're thinking about expanding their team. Are you someone that is quite rigid in terms of you should definitely have a licensed PA or bring an associate in? Or how would you view what you need to do to actually start to grow your team?
It's a very good question, Mitch. It comes down to, look, when I used to do training other agents, and it's never been my full-time thing, but I've done a bit of training for agents in New Zealand and Australia, normally on Zoom, and that's always been the first thing that they need to consider doing is creating some support behind them. So absolutely, if you want to go from 3 to 6, you're not going to do that without some support, whatever that support is. And sometimes the support comes in the form of an associate agent. Sometimes the support comes from a PI, and especially now with overseas and virtual PIs. It's almost criminal if you're selling 2 or 3 homes for you not to invest $1,000 or $1,500 a month to get someone that is going to help you, to allow you to double your income. This is one of the only industries that you can earn more than the Prime Minister of New Zealand, and it's achievable. It's achievable. People have mooring lines, and I can understand the hesitations, but yes, creating a support team, and I call it a team, right? That's one of the things that I did very well from the beginning. Started Team Diego. My first support was an associate, Wayne Zhao. He still works in our business, not in my team anymore, but still works in our business. And he was Chinese, it worked perfectly, the combination. And then from there we had a PA, and then evolved from there. But that's absolutely the first thing that you need to do if you're an agent and want to take the business to the next level, unless you're an agent working within a team, and then obviously you're taking advantage of their support systems.
And we so often talk about the systems that are required in real estate to be able to gain that leverage through running a team, what are some of the key roles and responsibilities that you divide into each person's role? So if I'm starting to do, 50, 70, 100 sales a year, how would you start to really define what roles need to happen so that way everyone comes in and they know exactly what needs to happen that day?
Are you more talking about admin side of things, or are you talking holistically as a team?
Holistically as a team.
Yeah, perfect. Well, look, in terms of the admin, I'll tell you what I'm doing, because I think it's probably just better to give you an example. So I'm very blessed to have my brother working with myself in the team as an operation manager. So he's currently my only staff that is working with me in New Zealand. I used to have 3 people working for me, an operation manager, a PA, and a marketing manager. And that's when we were selling almost a property a day. And with that, of course, every person's got their own roles. Well, now I've just got the operation manager. Then I've got Chris. She's amazing. I hope I'm going to be working with her until I retire. She's in the Philippines. She's really, really good. And once you find someone that is good overseas, normally people treat them as family, because it just makes our life easier. And then I do have a marketing agency on a retainer, and they do everything. I just go one-stop shop, so everything marketing goes there. And that's how I divide my admin and support. Then in terms of agents, now having 10 agents in the team, and we specialize at everything. So it's whether it's a plaster specialist, whether it's a townhouse specialist, whether it's a new build specialist. So in the team, I've got agents that specialize in one thing versus another. For example, Priya, she's just in the office here with me. I call her my apartments specialist because, well, she sells a lot of apartments with me. Now, she's my plaster specialist as well, because we sell a lot of plaster together. So it's having those roles identified, and then be able to actually help the agent thrive and become better at that particular set of skills, set of conversations. Better never stops. But that's how we sort of divide it.
That's great. And mate, I'd love to pivot a little bit. I went to my first NZ Rec this year, and over 700 people there, phenomenal speakers, a really smooth event, really enjoyable, lots of valuable takeaways. What was the desire or aim to begin NZ Rec? Because I can only assume it's probably not a big money-making thing. Like, is it a branding move? I'd love to get into the mindset of what was behind that.
Oh, I'm glad that you had fun. Next year, be sure that you apply for a media pass and come get some content on the day. But I'm genuinely glad that you had fun and you had a good day there. Look, I used to. I come from an event background. I used to be a DJ promoter. That's many moons ago. So I used to organize dance parties across Auckland and some across New Zealand. Then I went to England, did the same there. And when I came back, got into real estate, I managed to be asked to speak at ERIC. That was in, I think it was 2022 from memory. I think 2022. Anyway, and going there was quite. It was amazing. It was a brilliant experience. Such an amazing conference, big scale, and I have only experienced Harcourt's conference until that point. So that was a big step up. And I remember being in 2024 at the Harcourt's conference in Wellington, just walking from the conference to the hotel, and I thought, there is nothing in New Zealand that is catered for agents from all brands. And 15 minutes later, I was on the phone with my accountant. I got him to set up the company. And 3.5 months later, we had NZ Rec 24. I had huge support from Real Estate.co.nz and a lot of other sponsors. And although the first year was at a small venue, in a small room in a venue, it wasn't what we experienced this year. We had 335 people, and people enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed organising it. I enjoyed pulling it together. And yes, you're right. It hasn't been a money-making thing. Barely broken even so far. But that was always in the plan. The plan was for the first 5 years to build the brand up. And yeah, we've gone from 335 to 555 to 750 this year, and we're going to be 1,000 in 2027. And I've got a huge passion behind it. I love organising events. I don't know why, because it's stressful and it takes a lot of time. But overall, I enjoy it. And now I'm very blessed that I've got my wife Jess. She's on board as well to absorb the workload, especially closest to the conference.
Sure.
But yeah, that's been the journey behind us so far.
I don't know if some agents, after hearing that, will be expecting an NZREC after party, knowing that you used to do the DJing and the nightclubs kind of thing. I don't think that would be a safe environment to be funneling real estate agents to after the conference. Let them do their own thing. But man, that's so impressive. I love the speed in which you were able to think of an idea and then act, and regardless of whatever that outcome was going to be after that 3 or 4 months from making that decision, you were still committed to making it happen. Is that something that's always been in your DNA, where it's like, I'm just going to try and see what happens, rather than this kind of over analytical, people can put too much time and effort into the strategy rather than just like, okay, let's make a plan, let's do it and see what happens? Has that always been a part of your DNA?
Yeah, I've always had a bit of a creative mind to some degrees. I've never invented something from scratch, but I've been able to see an idea, replicate a concept, and apply it in my own way. NZREC, I've never tried to rip off Eric. I go to Eric still every year, mainly to get market knowledge and all of that. But it's just the fact that New Zealand was missing that. And I was able to put one and one together, and in my mind it worked. And I was so glad that it paid off. It was the same with DJing. It was the same with when I had an idea about something. I would normally, start confirming things within 24 hours, and within a week I'm normally already out on, because I've been doing a lot of marketing throughout my life, graphic designing, so I can move very solo, and I don't need other people to sort of make things happen. So it's something that I've been doing.
And how do you think that holds agents back in real estate specifically? Like that idea of everything needs to be perfect. I need to have my dialogue, down to every word, rather than, just go do the thing to get feedback to improve. How do you think that holds agents back in your experience?
Well, you see, Mitch, yesterday, my day off, the only thing that pissed me off yesterday is 3 different vendors have got back to me saying that they decided to work with someone else. Not often it happens that I get 3 like that in a single day. Better never stops. Within the team, I do have a role of mentoring and getting my agents to become better at what they do. And I always tell them, I've been doing this for 11 years and I still listen to the same 4 podcasts that I used to listen 10 years ago. I still listen to them right now. If you go on my phone and you have a look at my podcast app, they're all played. It's the knowledge. Yes, you don't need it to be good, but you need to be knowledgeable to be better. And you got to be able to be able to persevere when things get very tough. And most people quit at the time that things are about to turn better. And most people quit at the time that they've got a lot of L's in a row, or a lot of failures in a row, and they just think that it's too hard and it's not for them. I thought it was too hard, and it wasn't for me either, real estate, until I made a decision that no, I was going to achieve my goals, and then I went all in. But I can see how this industry can, push people out of the door faster than they've come in, because it's brutal. It's very brutal.
I'd love to touch on that. For an agent that is in that mindset, they probably don't see how their mindset affects their actions, and then their actions go on to affect their results. What would you say to an agent that's maybe going through that challenging period to actually reflect on not just what they've done, but how they're thinking and how that affects their results over the last 6 months?
Well, 2 things. One, let's think retrospectively, and one forwards. Retrospectively, just understanding what's the last failure, what's the last time that you missed an opportunity, what did you do wrong and what you could have done better. That's very, very important. Don't cry over spilled milk. However, you want to be sure that you don't spill the same cup in the same way. What I mean, don't make the same mistake twice, but you need to have some sort of self-awareness of understanding what actually went wrong, right? So that's very, very important, because I believe that, I still make mistakes to this day, but very rarely I make the same mistake twice. So that's one thing. And then you got to be optimistic, because the next yes is just a phone call away, or maybe 100 phone calls away, but there will be a yes. There will be a point that all of a sudden you genuinely don't have time to door knock anymore. I keep saying this, I door knocked for 4.5 years. And was it 5 days a week every week? Absolutely not. But it was always 3 or 4 days every week, religiously. And did I do it? And some days I got nothing? Absolutely, absolutely. But if I got something, most days, that will then compound into a successful business and a successful life. So you just got to keep going. This is a hard job, but it's possible, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, if you apply yourself accordingly.
One of the first self-development books that I ever read, I think when I was 18 or 19, was The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And it just goes to talk about, you don't see results for such a long period of time, but then before you know it, the results are bigger than you ever could have believed. And he gave the example where if you think of, let's use real estate as an example. If you did one sale in your first year, it would be easy to look at that as a failure. And then if you doubled your business the next year, well, 2 sales the second year, that would be a failure. And then if you double it again, 4 in the third year, 8 in the fifth, like if you start to double, you look at the first 5 years and you go, I've spent 5 years in this industry and I've only done 16 sales this year. It's really easy to look at that and think this is a complete failure. But then if you continue the math, well, then that 16 turns to 32, to 64, to 128, to 256, and it goes on. And then you look at year 10 and it's in the thousands. But if you only look at the first part of the story, it can be really easy to go, I'm off track. And exactly like what you're talking about there, it's just being able to stick with it long enough to the point where things take off.
Yeah, that's that.
And Diego, I'd just like to finish on this one question. If we were to completely remove your profile, if we were to completely remove your entire network and we were to pick you up and drop you in a random part of the country, whether that's Nelson or Invercargill, and you had to go and rebuild your career again, how would you get your first listing, and what would the things be that you focus on after that first listing?
I will find an area where there is an active agent with some active listings. I will call the agent and say that I have an opportunity coming up off market that I want to give him an opportunity for his buyers to introduce to the property. With that in mind, then I will go and door knock properties and say, I've currently got buyers that we're working with that they are looking for properties similar to yours. Would we waste our time to show them through your house? And there is a number of buyers that potentially could be interested. Once you get a yes, then of course you call the agent. But then what you'll do as well, you stop at every single house on the street to let them know that you're running it off market on Saturday at 3 o'clock or whatever time it is, and invite a few extra neighbors. And all of a sudden you're having an off market open home, having a couple of buyers, but as well meeting a bunch of other vendors. Now you replicate that. Eventually, if you don't get lucky that a buyer buys that, but you might as well get lucky that you turn that into a listing. And anyone can do that. All you need is just a little bit of determination.
Diego, this has been great. Thank you for your time. Thank you for not gatekeeping any information. And yeah, really appreciate what you've done for the industry and looking forward to NZREC next year.
I appreciate you, Mitch. Thank you very much for asking me. And it was a pleasure talking to you as well. So have a great day. Bye.